Good afternoon. Good afternoon, and welcome to the C.O.R.E Hour. Sensible, sustainable solutions for our society and you. My name is Tillman Hardy, and we have a great show today. I tell you what, y'all, my patience was tested today, boy. I tell you what, I told you guys that I have been meditating quite a bit these days, and specifically I've chosen to use as one form of meditation the Ma'at meditation. The goddess Ma'at is an Egyptian goddess. Her image is inscribed in the pyramids, and there are 42 laws that they call negative confessions. And one of those things that I learned in those negative confessions, one of the negative confessions is I will not act exclusively in anger. I was angry today, boy, and I had to sit back and meditate and say, okay, let's use that anger as an alarm clock and figure this thing out and figure out how to move forward, and what do I have to fix to reach my center again. You know what made me angry, y'all?
What's that?
My favorite bar in the neighborhood. You know, I live in Pigeon Town, and Pension Town for our older generation, who refers to that community as Pension Town. And my favorite bar is a relatively new bar. You know, we got a lot of bars in the Carrollton area, and a relatively new bar, Avery's Bar. I think they started about a year or two ago. Went up before the ABO board, the dreaded ABO board. It's really tough when you are a bar owner and you have to go up before the ABO board because you have a violation or a complaint. And Avery's had to go before the board because of some complaints they received from a few citizens in the neighborhood. And with a 7-0 vote, a unanimous vote, it was determined that their license would be revoked. And I'm just, I was looking for a word that would be PC on air, and I'm choosing to say I was flabbergasted. Does that work? Can I? Okay.
It works.
All right. So I'm back at my center now.
So I got to ask, 7-0, that's pretty surprising. What were some of the reasons that they gave for even, do you want to, yeah.
Y'all, lewd acts, right?
Okay.
This is one of the violations was lewd acts, just to show you how crazy this is. And you know what they were referring to?
I have no idea.
Twerking, y'all.
Twerking as a lewd act.
Twerking, according to the ABO board, is officially a lewd act in the city of New Orleans and will not be tolerated. What do y'all think about that?
You can get a business shut down for twerking.
So, Big Frida Miley Cyrus, I'm sorry, y'all. Gotta shut it down. No more moving the hips all right. Let's keep it moving, y'all. This is going to be a lively discussion. If you like to twerk, call in, please. Please call in. 504-260-9265. Avery's Bar has been closed down. I'm hoping that Avery will call in. This is a very, very sensitive topic because there are a lot of bars and restaurants, social aid and pleasure clubs in the city of New Orleans. Avery Manuel is an African-American man, and there are very few remaining African-American owned bars in the Carrollton area specifically, and they're dropping like flies, y'all. and those are real jobs for real people. This is real talk, real times. WBOK, please call in. Let's keep the conversation going. Moving forward, today's topic is sustainable real estate development. And it just so happens that as I was looking at, this is week 17 of the year. And so what I'm doing is every week I'm focusing on one of the Ma'at meditations, one of the laws of Ma'at. And the 17th law of Ma'at is, I will not steal anyone's land. So that's pretty relevant to this discussion. The entire gentrification discussion is all about, whether or not folks are stealing land when they're purchasing property and developing it, or are they developing and improving the land? It's blighted property in a lot of these communities, and a lot of folks feel that, whoever wants to buy those properties, God bless them. Let's get them back into commerce. I guess that would be the other side of the coin in terms of the debate that's being had. And anyway, let's get started. So, of course, we have Mike Ballard here. Mike is a regular co-host on the show. We have Ashlyn in the room. Ashlyn is running the cameras today, so hopefully we'll upload some video to our YouTube channel. And we will also have Cassius Peeler. I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. I like it when I get it right. Cassius is the director of the Masters of Sustainability, Master of Sustainable Real Estate Development course, at Tulane University. Cassius, thank you for being here.
No, thank you, Tillman. I thought you might give me a not a bonus, but a promotion. If you had the title wrong, maybe I get a promotion here. No, that's all good.
That depends. We might push for that at the end of this show. Let's see how the conversation goes. So, Cassius, tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you come from?
Sure. So just to pick up on your your intro about the Ma'at, your kind of meditation about that and never steal someone's property. It got me thinking. There's a saying that I learned in law school: all property is theft. The idea that there is a shared element of all property, and that when we take ownership of it, that there's an element of theft there. Now, obviously, I'm not promoting that. We're not even in the most extreme case, I think, talking about that, embracing that entirely. But I think the concept that although we may own a particular piece of property legally and through our society and have control over it, have control over certain elements of it, that at a basic level we all share this land that we live on, and we come up with rules for how we can manage that, but that that at some level ownership is a necessary evil, maybe, and I think it has a lot of benefits. We're able to produce some benefits, but there's some challenges too.
Thank you for that. Our phone lines are lighting up, and I hate to leave people on hold. We have Carolyn on line 1, or Karen on line 1. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Hey, how you doing?
Hi, what is your comment or question?
Oh, well, I called to make a correction. It is not Avery's Manuel's Bar. It is Karen Robinson.
I see. And you're Karen?
Yes, I was the owner.
Yes.
Yeah,
please.
we have to clear that up. That's got us kind of like in trouble.
Thank you for that correction, Karen. And can you just give us a little bit of an update, because this is a really important conversation to us?
Yes, it is. Well, so far when we was before the board, they were saying that due to Avery's past history, that's what they was dwelling on so much. Well, I guess they are my new mom and dad now, telling me who I could date and who I can't date. So that's more reason why they took the license. I mean, if you could read the questions that they was asking from the ABO board, they was mainly targeting Avery.
I see.
And they wanted to know, why did I name it after him? I guess I can't do that no more either because it was my boyfriend.
Wow, incredible. So, do you have the list of the violations that they said
No, I'm sneaking on the phone.
Okay. Okay, well, I know there was one in particular that really surprised me, and that was lewd acts. And when I asked for clarification, it seems as though they were talking about twerking. So is twerking a lewd act now in the city of New Orleans?
And we had trash everywhere, and what else they had? And people, that's looting. People standing outside.
People standing outside, okay.
Yeah. So
well,
I'm trying to figure out what they're going to do with the smoke and where they're going to smoke at.
I see.
That's going to be looting, right?
Exactly. I mean, where do we begin with this conversation? Right here. I tell you what. So do you have an option to appeal this? Is this something that you can appeal, or is this it?
Yeah, we can, but I mean, it seems like it's a fight that's already won because they seem like they came in there with their mind made up already. Because if you're attacking Avery and we wasn't in there for that, you fixed the fight already.
So they basically said that Avery was not a person that they wanted to see in business as an entrepreneur. Is that right?
Well, he wasn't. I was.
Right.
And he was a part of me.
Yeah, I see. And so they want you to break up with your boyfriend. That's what.
Basically, like I said, they think I have a new mom and dad now. They're telling me who I could see. But, I mean, we've been together for 27 years.
Wow.
We're not married, but we say we are married. So since we say we are married, they held that like, okay, y'all say y'all married, we're going to treat it like a married couple.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, I've been to the bar several times, as you know. And your age limit is over 30, right?
It's 30 and up, yes.
Okay. So it's not like y'all have 19 and 21-year-olds in there twerking. Y'all got 30-plus twerking in there. I think I even seen some 50-plus and 60-plus in there twerking a couple times. And they're shutting down the twerking according to and you can't date certain people. And what else you got to do to have a license in the city of New Orleans? You're a lawyer, Cassius. What? So you can't twerk. You can't have a boyfriend with prior history. What do you think about this?
I think maybe we should have a twerk in. Everybody comes over
a twerk action. I like it. Let's twerk in front of City Hall and say this is ridiculous.
Right.
Well, thank you for calling in, Karen. We're going to keep this conversation going, and we're going to try to come to a solution on this because, Avery's Bar, and I know y'all have renamed it, but it has a really big picture of the T-shirt Avery's Bar on the Uptown Messenger wrote an article about this, and I posted that article on my Facebook page.
Okay.
Take a look at that if you are listening in and read about this story because it could happen to your neighborhood bar. And we had another show earlier in the week earlier in the month where we talked specifically about the need for there to be a cultural exchange and a conversation on the different cultures in the city of New Orleans and the need for us to start expressing ourselves freely together and peacefully so that we can try to reconcile our differences. And so we're going to continue that conversation as we move things along. Thank you for calling in, Karen.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Well, I'm going to say it in the famous name of Avery's Place. They want the culture, but they don't want the people.
Thank you for
y'all.
that. Thank you. Love you too.
Thank you.
Love you too.
Thank
Alicia.
you.
Alicia is on line 3. Are you there, Alicia?
Yes, I am. How are you?
Thank you for calling in and thank you for holding. What is your question or comment?
Well, I guess it's Miss Karen. She answered the questions that on the question part that were they really cited for twerking, or if there were other issues. But let me say to Miss Karen, don't give up, don't lay down, and don't allow them to take your business. And as far as them treating you and Mr. Avery as a married couple, you're not a married couple, and they can't sanction you as one. In the state of Louisiana, you either is or you ain't married. If you didn't stand before somebody and say, I do, you ain't married. So they cannot look at you as a married couple. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you for that, Alicia.
Common law is not allowed or recognized in the state of Louisiana. You either
I didn't
is
think
or
so.
ain't.
I didn't think
So
so.
you can't treat Mr. Avery as my husband because he's not my husband, and they shouldn't be sanctioning you as such when it comes to your license. But my biggest advice to these bar owners and across the state of Louisiana, I mean New Orleans in particular, you all need to organize. You all need to organize to make sure you have the same rights and privileges as those bars down on Bourbon Street and all throughout the French Quarter.
On Oak Street.
I don't see them taking licenses from any of those bars. And you're right, some of those uptown white neighborhoods. You don't see them taking licenses for people standing outside. How many times have you walked down Bourbon Street, you had to walk around people because people were standing outside of a nightclub, of a ballroom?
Oh, yeah. The line sometimes wraps around the corner over at Rebirth. What is that? Maple Leaf. The line sometimes wraps around the bar outside.
I don't know what happened with Miss Mercedes down in Lower 9, because I went up there and I stood before and spoke for Miss Mercedes, and they were trying to take her license on the Miss Mercedes on Dauphine Street, I believe. And Miss Mercedes has been in business for over 60 since the 1960s. My dad used to go there, and this is really a senior citizens bar. You know what I'm saying?
So
probably
is
$1 or $2 highballs and stuff. And they want to shut it down. It's the gentrification of the neighborhoods. It's like the city people who moved to the country because they like the nice and quiet peace and calm of the country. But then they want to tell the farmer to lock his pigs because they make too much noise, lock his rooster, the rooster in because he crows at break of day, and also to lock up his cows because they move too loud. This is ridiculous, but you all need to get a coalition that you all will go down there when you have these issues. You're standing in numbers, and numbers matter.
Yes, they do.
And don't lay down and take this crap.
Are you a part of your neighborhood association, Alicia?
I'm a part of everything.
Well,
I'm a part of the whole entire city and what's right for the city.
What is your neighborhood association saying about the bars in your community? I know that
we don't have bars in this community because that's not culturally what you have in the East. As a matter of fact, you have people that want to shut down different places, don't want reception halls to serve alcohol. That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy, but culturally, that's how it is. My grandmother's house is on Edinburgh Street. We had a bar when I was a little girl. It was Harry and Marge's. Harry and Marge's then became Big Time Tips on one corner, and they had Joe Morris in the middle of the block. That's culture uptown. And if the gentries don't like that part of it, don't move in there.
Right.
But I think you need to band together as an organization, as a group, and fight these injustices, fight the unfairness, and fight the discrimination.
Well, thank you so much for your call, Alicia. I really appreciate it.
And I am a meditator, too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Keep hope alive. Wow, let's keep this conversation going. Again, our phone number is 504-260-9265. Jeff is in the room. And Jeff, what's your last name?
Lewis.
Jeff Lewis is in the room. Jeff and I met, I guess, earlier this week. Was it that?
Last week.
Last week. Earlier last week, Jeff graduated from Arizona State University with a degree in sustainability. and we're having a conversation specifically around youth in our community. And so I wanted to link him up with Ashlyn, and I wanted him to come on to the show just to talk about some of the things that he's up to as a part of the solution as well. Thank you for coming in, Jeff.
Yeah, well, glad to be here.
So Cassius, in terms of sustainable real estate development, do we talk at all about culture, or do we focus more on the environmental aspects of things?
That's a great question. I think just listening to this recent topic, I guess, and the callers, I think it's the kind of thing that we need to discuss as a city. And certainly, I think your question about are you engaged with your homeowner or your neighborhood association or whoever whatever the local kind of group is, to deal with it without going to the city council or without, maybe there's a law, but really let's figure out how to coexist.
Exactly.
And certainly for our program and what we talk about at Tulane and the School of Architecture, how do we preserve culture? How do we preserve some of the people and the history, or at the very least respect that history, and how do we do that over the long term? So from my perspective, sustainability, that word, is important because it really talks about looking at a long term. So a lot of times people think of developers in particular as coming in and how do I flip the house,
right.
Make a buck and then I'm
right.
out and whatever.
They even have shows about that on Home and Garden Channel. Flip that house, but whose house is that you're flipping? And what is the history of that house, especially in circumstances like these old corner store buildings? Avery's sits on the corner. It's very clearly a commercial property, and so if you're going to take that liquor license away, if you're going to take the business license away, what are you going to be able to do with that property? I think in real estate, you call that functional obsolescence, right?
Well, if somebody would probably turn it into residential or something else. If there is, I don't know enough about that neighborhood, but I think the issue, based on what I know about what I understand of this particular situation, it seems like there's this is a neighborhood conflict. You don't need to bring in mom and dad, really. Everybody should be able to have a way to discuss it. Maybe not everybody's going to win or agree, but maybe there are some things that that limit the wider impact of the bar. I'm not asserting that there isn't a problem. I don't know what the particular situation is, but I think that's a common discussion. And like the caller said, you got it when you move out to a farm. All of a sudden, people live around the farm and they think, well, gosh, it smells like cows out here.
Right.
Let's fix that. Well,
you just never know.
You can't like the farm and not like the cows. So I think it's not a special situation, and the idea of bar owners banding together, I think, could work. But I think that the issue is much broader than bar owners. So I think we're seeing it in a number of different neighborhoods, not just in New Orleans, but certainly in New Orleans the last few years. And it's broader than bars. It's broader than kind of sitting out. I just saw an article about downtown. A lot of people want to have restaurants where they can sit out on the sidewalk, and and that's a good thing in some way. People want that, but it also creates a new conflict,
right.
and we need to have a way to deal with those conflicts that doesn't require somebody to get a lawyer, go to city council, argue their case. We've got to have a way that other people can get involved. Because I think also the other thing is that a few people who are loud about a topic can create an issue, and a whole lot of people who think, Avery's is fine, not a problem for me, but they're not going to show up at anything. And so how do you
engage those
wider
people?
Discussion?
How do you engage those people, and how do you put everybody in the same room, especially if they're not showing up to the neighborhood association? Is the neighborhood association the solution? Call in, callers, and tell us, are you attending your neighborhood association meetings? And what are they saying about bars in your community and about sustainable real estate development and gentrification? Jeff just stepped in. What do you think about this conversation? We're talking specifically about, the cultural differences in communities, about Avery's Bar specifically, which had its license revoked on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And the history of that bar is that it had been in the community as a bar for 50-plus years. It was taken over recently by Ms. Karen, who called in a while ago and described that the ABO board revoked her license because they said that her boyfriend was a convicted felon. And so we're trying to have this conversation about how we conserve our cultural resources and how we reach social equity in our communities. If this building, this historic building, the building's over 100 years old, if it has been a bar for so long, and now that some gentrification is taking place, and I'll go ahead and place myself in that number. I mean, we're renovating a building in the neighborhood. We have spent a lot of money in developing that space, and we want to see it thrive. We want to see it benefit from the new economy that's entered into the community. But we did it with the goal of conserving the culture of that community. The building that we have, which is at 1401 Leonidas Street, used to be a community center in the 70s. And so when we developed the space, we decided to return it back to the community as a community development center, a sustainable community development center. And so prior uses of spaces is really important to me, because when that building was built, including Avery's Bar, including, Charity Hospital, do we even want to jump into that? It's very important to me that, we look at the cultural history of those spaces, and that we have the intention of filling that void, literally and figuratively, with the same intentions that the original developers had as well. But what do you think about you're local, right? You're a local New Orleanian.
Somewhat local. Dad was born.
What's your story?
Well, born and raised in Baton Rouge. My dad grew up off AP 2 Row in the 7th Ward. So I spent a lot of weekends down here, a lot of months down here when I was growing up. Moved away for college and came back because I wanted to get closer to home, but not quite home in Baton Rouge.
Right.
So here I am. So I've been here for about 5 years, and I've lived pretty much all over the city. And also I've worked with a lot of the community members in the area where I work at, which is Taylor Park, which is in Central City. And engaging with them and hearing their issues, I really heard what Ms. Karen was saying about how they want the culture, but they don't want the people. And I think what we really have is not ill intentions on either side, but a lack of communication. And I think part of the solution to the problem, the majority of the solution to the problem, is helping both sides engage with one another to find somewhat of a middle ground on how they coexist. And I think that's the key to preserving the spaces. Also, I'm finding a lot of the problem is that in terms of developing the space with the community in mind, some of the community members don't quite know how to engage in this new economy and to develop the spaces on their own. So you see other outsiders coming in and developing, which is a good thing. It's a great thing to have commerce and whatever else, but you do lose the culture when that happens. So you want to have the current culture be able to engage with the incoming culture, and I think that's the way we create a better, more sustainable development going forward.
So the reoccurring theme seems to be cultural exchange, exchanging one another's cultures to have a deeper understanding of one another and our intentions, because our intentions should be to sustain our communities. And in my opinion, just going back to, my history in this particular community in the 17th Ward in Carrollton, it seems to me that if we can just get people to identify themselves as neighbors, and then to look at the true definition of what a neighbor is, and maybe I should look it up myself. But just to look at the true definition of what a neighbor is and begin to explore that together in the same room, and to make one another feel safe together in the same neighborhood. And I'll tell you what, I know a lot of younger and older white people, a lot of older and younger black people who don't feel safe in the same space with their neighbors. And it's not about physical violence, it's about emotional violence, the name calling, right? The exclusion, I keep hearing this over and over again. If you attend neighborhood association meetings, or if you're a neighborhood association president, stop saying invite them to our meeting. Please stop saying that. Because first of all, how you know they aren't having their own meetings, right? All the churches in the community that I live in have their own meetings about how to sustain the community. Now, whether that's right or wrong, whether they need to somehow come to a space with you and invite you to their space and vice versa, that's a whole nother conversation. But please stop saying that you and your body of, 10 to 20 to 30 people is going to somehow determine the fate of the entire neighborhood by yourselves, because that also is not right. We're going to have to take a break here. Come back after the break where we talk about the solutions. We've identified a lot of challenges to sustainable community development, sustainable real estate development. We'll be right back with the solutions here on the C.O.R.E. Hour. Sensible, sustainable solutions for our society and you.
WBOK 1230 AM, the People's Station.
Welcome back to the show. This is the C.O.R.E. Hour, sensible, sustainable solutions for our society and you. Before the break, we were talking about a lot of the challenges to sustainable real estate development, sustainable community development, and specifically cultural reconciliation, cultural tolerance in our communities. Once again, what sparked that conversation was one of my favorite bars. Its prior name was Avery's, at the corner of Willow and I believe it's General Ogden. Their license was revoked, and so we're having this conversation about what happened and why it happened and how we can prevent things like this from happening again. Cassius, let's talk more about Tulane's program and some of the other programs at Tulane University affiliated with the School of Architecture that may be able to continue this conversation and may be able to get some folks from all over the world who are attending this program to engage in this conversation and help us reach some solutions as well.
Sure, Tillman. We have the 1-year graduate program. This is in our 4th year, so next year will be our 5th year. And we do have students from all over the country, certainly, and about half our students are from New Orleans that come here, and about half of them stay here. And I think one of the things we talk about, you asked about sustainability, whether it was mostly environmental, and I think we're looking at long-term, but also outside of the boundary of your property. So you do own a property, but you need to care about what happens outside of that boundary, and that's true environmentally with the water runoff and other issues where you're getting your energy from, but it's also true with the kind of cultural aspects and the economic sustainability of the neighborhood. So I think that our students we try to get them out in practice very quickly, and one of the reasons they come is to learn some of the the tools, the mechanisms that maybe somebody who's been a bar owner for 20, 30 years, they know how to run a bar, and they don't know how to deal with the zoning or other property-related issues. And so I think having some people who can mediate, who understand that structure and can navigate it, that can be helpful for everybody.
Do you have mediators there? Because I'm thinking of a project that I'm involved with called the Welcome Table New Orleans, which is all about racial reconciliation. But you also have, with the School of Architecture, a program called the Tulane City Center. Is that right?
Right. Well, so the Tulane City Center has been around since actually just before Katrina, but it's a way for our architecture students to get out and engage the community. They have supervision from professionals and from architects who are faculty, but it helps them as architects see these projects in real life, but also see real people who are in neighborhoods that they maybe wouldn't encounter if they stayed in school all the time. But it also provides a resource for community groups or the kind of smaller groups who can't hire a developer just yet or don't have the capacity yet, don't know what they want to do, to get a kind of a first look at what a design solution might be.
Cool.
So yes,
you guys have been around since right before Katrina. You said how many projects have you worked on in that time, approximately?
I don't represent the city center, and I'm going to be terrible at giving you the numbers.
Okay. Well, maybe we need to. Jenga Mwendo is still there, I believe. Right?
Jenga Mwendo might be there. I know she's been a fellow there, and obviously you know her. But yeah, we could get them on to talk specifically about some of the resources that they have. One way they get projects is they have an RFP, which I believe is still out. I should check on that. Where they ask any nonprofit or community groups to essentially propose a project where they would be interested in some design help, some kind of architectural help. Sometimes they work with our real estate students, and there's a real estate component.
When we do our twerking action at City Hall, will they show up for that? That's the most important
question.
They
will document it and provide a how-to book for future actions. No, the City Center is a great resource. I also wanted to mention we have Project Pipeline, which is a summer program, so mostly for high school kids. So maybe if there's some listeners have kids or grandkids who are maybe interested in architecture or interested in just gentrification and what's happening in their neighborhood, the summer program at the School of Architecture is an opportunity to get a taste of what kinds of things they might learn in architecture school and understand that better. Even if they don't end up going to Tulane or to architecture school, it could be a good summer program. They have an open house this coming Monday at 4:30 at the City Center.
Awesome, and I posted that on my Facebook page as well as the C.O.R.E USA Facebook page. So if you're not, if you don't like our page yet, you need to go ahead and do that so you can stay up to par in terms of community development, sustainable community development, and this program in particular is a really important one. The National Organization of Minority Architects, and Brian C. Lee is the point of contact there. Again, that is on the Facebook page called Project Pipeline. I know that they've done this for a number of years now. It's growing in its capacity, and they're doing some really awesome work, so please support that as well. And Jeff, you also have a program that you've been supporting recently, right?
Yes, I've been working with YouthWorks NOLA to help get kids enrolled. YouthWorks NOLA is it's a job training program. It's an initiative of the mayor. Basically, it's several paid internships, different tiers, teaching kids job skills, even athletics, and preparing them for college athletics if that's the path they choose to go. So I've been helping kids around Taylor Park get their paperwork together, get them down to the offices, getting their appointments, and getting them enrolled in that program.
So maybe some of those programs out there that are involving the youth over the summertime can take something like this on as a project, because from what I've seen, and we've been participants in the Job One program during the summer for 5 years now, and from what I've seen, those young people out there, those high schoolers in particular, are really engaged and really interested in improving their communities and getting their hands dirty and learning about the culture and learning about how to engage socially. And so beyond what they do in the teen clubs. And this is, I think, a perfect opportunity for that. These summer workforce development programs, oftentimes, these young people get pigeonholed into, pushing paper and doing stuff like that. Let's get these young people out in the street so that they can learn how to do this work and how and engage with these businesses and help them to grow as well, because you never know. Many of these young people are going to become the bar owners of the future. You never know which one is going to be inspired to do to build a bar when they get older. And if they are involved in this conversation right now, then they will know how to act and how to navigate the system and not end up like our dear friend Karen and Avery over there in Pigeon Town. So how do we help Karen? Because, you know, I sent in a letter myself to the ABO board. And without reading the entire letter, because I can be a talker, I basically said that C.O.R.E USA is willing to do whatever it takes in terms of engaging community members, engaging the community members who felt that the bar was not good for the community, and having a conversation in our space, which is 2 blocks down the street, and trying to help arrive at a solution for sustaining this cultural gem that we had in our community that's now just had its doors shut down, hopefully not indefinitely. And I guess the ABO board just didn't want to consider that. It's my understanding that they literally said, and I'm taking this from the Uptown Messenger, that Avery's, because at one point it was affiliated or owned by or had Mr. Avery's name on it, that's why they were shutting it down. And, you know, is that the right thing to do? Is that what's best for these types of situations? It seems that Miss Karen corrected the incident. She put her name on the bar. She owns the bar outright, legally. And so the only thing they can tell her is, we don't want your boyfriend to be affiliated with you if you own the bar. And to me, that's overstepping boundaries just a little bit. What do y'all think? Mike?
All right. I've been pretty quiet so far.
Yes, you have. Call you out.
Yes. No, I think I guess what I'm looking at is the economic side of it. If they're no longer allowed to operate a bar in this place, what are they going to do? You know, we've talked about the cultural side of it, but the economics is that's making a huge impact on a family, you know? So it seems like we should be able to come to a solution. And also socially, I guess we need to figure out, how do we stop, let's say, a future situation from getting to this point? Because to me, it seems like there could have been dialogue between the people who had the complaint and the owners of the bar before it got to a point where we're in front of city council.
Ms. Karen, if you're still out there, if you could call back in and let us know, you know, what that process looked like, because I'm very interested. I did not hear of any community meetings. I wasn't invited to any community meetings that discussed this. We founded the Pension Town of Carrollton Neighborhood Association, and we've been mostly defunct till now because we decided not to have meetings while there was so much divisiveness with so many different neighborhood associations, which is another big issue, is competing neighborhood associations. So we pulled back just to allow everyone else to kind of let the dust settle. But I think it's time for us to step back in and to start up these neighborhood association meetings. As a matter of fact, I've asked several people to come to our building at 1401 Leonidas on Sunday at 12 o'clock so that we can just have a conversation about whether or not we need to re-energize the Pension Town of Carrollton Neighborhood Association, if for nothing else, just to have ongoing dialogue about how to identify and eliminate barriers to sustainability in, of course, the environmental, economic, cultural, and social systems in our neighborhood. If you live in Pentontown and you feel that yes, we should or no, we shouldn't, please call in. Again, our number is 504-260-9265. Do you guys over at Tulane, the master's program, as you're talking about developing a space, you're oftentimes talking about developing a new community, for instance, a apartment complex, right? And let's say you have 300 or 400 apartments in this apartment complex. You have yourself a small community. And I used to be a member of an organization called the Community Associations Institute, C.O.R.E, and there is a Louisiana chapter as well. Do you talk much about the management of those apartment complexes afterwards and what it means to comprehensively sort of develop a management organization and a community association where the residents are engaged in conversations about how to improve the space, or do you stick primarily to the numbers in your program?
It's interesting. Most of our projects are not that scale, certainly.
Okay.
We're looking at a lot of projects in New Orleans, and so I think one of the challenges for New Orleans is to retain the scale. So, it takes as much work oftentimes to do a 4-unit project as it does to do a 400-unit project. Right. And there's not the same kind of resources to do that. We talk more about engaging the community in the development and design process than managing, especially within a particular project, kind of setting up an organization and managing that. We talk a lot about operating the building, but it's still about utilities, maintenance, having the building last and not fall into disrepair.
So when you're deciding on a community to develop a space, what are some of the factors that you look for?
Interesting. Well, I was going to add to your point about
Go ahead.
communities that
Speak freely, my friend. Speak freely.
That I do think that what's culturally important about any neighborhood does change over time. So I think we don't want to say, well, now it's a museum piece and it's got to be like this all the time.
Well, now some people in the French Quarter might disagree with you on that one.
They might disagree, but it still has changed over time. And I think that the corner stores, corner bars, an opportunity for people to get out and interact in their neighborhood, the opportunity to just have close the street and maybe you have a birthday party or something on the street. That's something that I think we do a lot here.
A block party.
That can transcend changes to the neighborhood. So you can have new people in a neighborhood or more people in a neighborhood, and as long as there's still a way for people to engage. I was thinking about it as a solution. You're saying, how do people interact? They've got to interact outside of a meeting even, so when you come to a meeting, we're here to talk about this, what you need to do is you need to have people, you need to go inside your neighbor's house and have dinner, and you need to be able to do that in informal ways, at least a couple times a year. And we've got a lot of ways that happens, but it's, it's something that I think whether you're in Pigeontown or you're in Gerttown or you're in the Bywater, you've got to have those kind of ways to interact. That's something New Orleans does well.
It's funny you said that. I'm looking at the computer now because I'm trying to find on Neighborhood Partnerships Network. Neighborhood Partnerships Network is an organization here in New Orleans that was started right after Hurricane Katrina with the intention of rebuilding communities all throughout the city, and specifically working with neighborhood associations, community associations, to empower them to self-actualize what they thought a sustainable community should look like, which has been a very interesting journey. I was on the board for many years, and I just heard on Eileen's show earlier this week. Eileen Carter has a show, The Good Life, and Timlin Sams, who's the director of NPN, was on that show, and they are going to have a bar crawl. And I thought to myself, that is a brilliant idea, Now, the bar crawl is meant to sort of celebrate, let's say, the new smoking ordinance, right? Because in the city of New Orleans, it has just been decided recently that there's going to be a ban on smoking in all of the public spaces in the city of New Orleans. And actually, there are some bars who are celebrating this because many bar owners, believe it or not, are non-smokers. And many of them are non-smokers because of health reasons. So are bartenders and other folks, cooks, servers who work in these bars. And so they are going to, NPN is going to have a bar crawl that starts, I want to say it's Thursday. I don't see it on their website yet. If anybody knows the information, please call in. But if not, I will make sure that I post it on our Core USA Facebook page. They're having a bar crawl, and what I started thinking to myself was, this might just be a sustainable solution for race and reconciliation in the city of New Orleans, particularly just around engaging and crossing cultures in a safe space. Because if you know anything about the bars in New Orleans, the bars in New Orleans are quite different than any other bars I've ever been to in the world, actually. That includes Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, Thailand. I always miss the bars in New Orleans when I leave. And the unique experience that you get there, it's almost like a spiritual one. It's just a feeling that you get when you're in your favorite bar, listening to your favorite music. I can think of a good one. My favorite bar is Blue Nile now. You know, since Avery's is not open right now. My favorite bar right now is Blue Nile. You know, they play great reggae music, brass bands, and the music just has soul in a way that they tell stories in the bars in New Orleans that really just touch your heart. And the drinks are amazing too. What do y'all think about this bar crawl experience that they're having? Could that be a sustainable solution for engagement, or do we need to sit in another meeting and have another talk?
Well, I do think one of the themes of this show today, it seemed like, is engaging the youth. And I think whatever it is, it's got to be multi-generational.
Right.
So making sure there's opportunity for teenagers to be engaged in this discussion. But it's got to happen at a couple different levels. So, you know, the bar crawl could be a part of it, certainly.
Sure. What do you think?
You know, a couple Thursdays ago, I went on the NOLA Social Ride, which is a bicycle bar crawl that happens every Thursday, and probably happening tonight. And it was amazing. We started off.
Now you bartend a little bit on the side, don't you?
I do. I
Okay.
do. I mean, and you're 100% right.
Now,
about,
do you call yourself a bartender or a mixologist?
I'm still a bartender. I'm working towards mixology.
Okay.
I'm not quite at that level yet, but maybe someday. But yeah,
So tell us about the bar crawl.
the bar crawl was it was a bicycle bar crawl. So we biked through different neighborhoods, going to different bars and parks, and it was a fantastic experience. And not so much. I mean, all parts of it were great, but the part that I really enjoyed the most was going through the neighborhoods and all the neighbors coming out and seeing like 100 bicycles going through, and then people getting on their bicycles and joining in. And this was people from ages, 12 or 13, kids I recognized from the park, plus, older individuals as well. And so it really engaged the different neighborhoods as we were going through. Yeah. So I think it's a fantastic idea. It may not be, because it's a bar crawl, it may not be for every generation, but I think it's a good place to start.
Well, it looks like we need to wrap this thing up. Thank you, all of the guests, both of our guests, Cassius. Thank you for all the hard work that Tulane is doing. And how can folks get in touch with your office?
Oh, interesting. Our program, the acronym is MSRED, so Master of Sustainable Real Estate Development. So you could just search for Tulane MSRED and come up with that.
Okay.
That's probably the best way. My email is cpealer@tulane.edu if someone wanted to contact me directly.
Say that email one more time for us.
C as in Cassius, PEALER @tulane.edu.
All right, awesome. Thank you for coming. And again, in closing, our meditation of the day: don't steal people's land, engage the youth, and have a drink today. On me. Again, sensible, sustainable solutions here at the C.O.R.E. Hour. Thank you for listening in. We'll see you next week at 12 o'clock. Goodbye.